Hello, folks, and you're very welcome to the Cult of Canada, your Manchester United podcast and YouTube channel here in Dublin, Ireland. I am Paul Butler Lennox, and we're going live tonight to chat about the upcoming match on Thursday evening against Athletic Club back in Old Trafford. First of all, what a yo-yo, horrible season that I think we'd all like to forget, but we are. I think approaching what could be a potential silver lining. I think that we'll do a job at Old Trafford. I hope we can. Um, and I understand the economy and common sense that Ruben had to show. Over the weekend, it was a terrible game to watch. Stagnant. Nice to see Mason Mount score, but at the same time, I mean, it's not like we cannot call the likes of Brentford a bogey team because we've only lost once to them in the last four, maybe five meetings. So they're not a bogey team. We should have taken some points off Brentford over the weekend, but it is what it is. But let's concentrate on some positives. Loads of interesting things going on. Um, as per usual, the negative Nancy's were out in full force at the weekend, having a go at the likes of Obi, who's a 17-year-old child, by the way. I have a daughter who's uh, 14 months younger than her, and if anyone spoke about her in any capacity, in any endeavours that she was involved in, the way that some people were speaking about that young man, there'd be some serious questions asked face to face. People need to manage and lower their expectations of the club. Let us know what you think about Thursday. Get involved in the comments below. I'm really excited to speak to some of you guys tonight. Yeah, so let's talk about some pressing things um, over the last couple of days. Myself and Brian and had a chat recently enough, as well as Jack Points from the United Community Channel. I think we're all in mutual agreement that it's been what would be perceived to be a bit of a disaster of the season. And I'm going to go across some of the news that's circulating over the last couple of days. Again, some of the transfer speculation and see kind of who might be coming in, who might be going out. I think that the reality is that United are um, such headline grabbing. They're such a headline grabbing club that people get linked and tagged to Manchester United in terms of transfers on a daily basis. It's got so kind of frenetic and ridiculous that we don't know who is actually going to be signed now. But just looking at the kind of forward options, because there's been like mad conflicting reports over the last couple of days, weeks. Um, Looking at Liam Delap, you'd have to say that if Liam Delap was to go into a forward line of Rasmus Højlund, Xerxes, Obi, and Ahmad next season, I'd be concerned for more or less of the same end product that we've been having now. It's a serious concern that United don't seem to be wanting to go for a proven goal scorer. There was talk potentially of Harry Kane coming in again. That's starting to gather a bit more pace. Gyökeres seems like the obvious option, but again, I think that we tend to not go for the obvious option. We tend to get players that are kind of not even on any of our radars, which is a bit troubling. I would say that as far as I'm concerned, we need someone who we know is going to score 20 goals at least next season, that we've been lacking. Sadly, I know Bruno is on 19, but you'd have to say that we need someone coming in who's going to do a job kind of from the get go, and will be, won't be an apologist for the club or for themselves and what they can do. You'd have to say that the lap being linked to the club, although warranted, is a little bit of a worry. I'd like to see Gorky as in there, or a Lednowski, or uh, Lewandowski. I'd like to see him. I'd like to see him come to United just purely because that's exactly what a bunch of young strikers need. I mean, if you look at what he's doing with Barcelona, although he's playing less of a active part in what's happening, you'd have to say that his influence on the forward line seems to be a really positive one, and that's exactly the model I'd like to see next year for United. Some more young players brought in to fit the system. Someone taking the pressure off Bruno to go up and grab a winner or a goal. You'd have to say that someone like Lewandowski. You'd have to say that he'd be, in terms of his experience and his return, you'd have to say even at 36, you'd say he could still come in and do a job for a year or two. Footballers, particularly strikers, are playing much longer now than they did in the past. So he would be my preference. Let us know in the chats what you think yourselves. Personally, I think that, bear with me here for a sec, folks. Personally, I think him or Harry Kane would be a no-brainer for United. It just doesn't make sense that United wouldn't bring in someone that can carry that particular cross. It's concerning that they're not making. There's no very clear inroad to a striker coming in. When you look at the likes of Osherman tearing it up, he seems to be sending some sort of indications that he's interested in coming to play for Manchester United. Is he capable? It, he seems to be making some indications that he wants to come. I think God knows his ego is big enough to try to take on the club in that regard. Let us know the thoughts. What do you think yourself in the comments below if you're interested in getting involved? If not, comment. There's live stream chat, but jump onto the comments below on the video, or indeed on the group, the Facebook groups, Man United groups, as well, and let us know what you think. It's been a weird, topsy-turvy season in that, and look, nothing's won until at the end of the season, but the stats don't lie. United are 14th, 15th as it stands in the league now, I think, after that showing at the weekend. And you'd have to say that it's not looking particularly optimistic for the rest of the season for the games that we have. I know it's all hedging all our bets and keeping all of our eggs in our basket for the Europa League final potentially, but you'd have to say that it's been a bit of a disaster. A bit of a disaster for a couple of different reasons. I mean, we've mentioned this in other videos, in that Ruben Amorim didn't want to come to United until the start of next season. And it does beg the question, there's a couple of what ifs there. What if Ten Hag hung around for another season? What if Ruud van Nistelrooy stayed on, but in all probability, Ruud probably would be in a very similar situation to Amorim, and maybe wouldn't have the strategy in terms of the Champions League to get us to where we've been so far. But looking forward to the match on Thursday. You'd think that with the home advantage that United should at least score one or two goals. But what has the season taught us? It's taught us, in Ruben Amorim's words in the press conference recently, is that United have dominated games and then thrown it away all season. So where does the fault of that lie? Is that the Manchester United manager's fault? Is that the previous Manchester United manager's fault? Um, where where does the book stop? You know, there are some there has been rather some positive transitions into the first team. I think Obi is a interesting young player that will make some headway next year. But it would be as silly putting him in a position where he has to lead the line as it was putting, you know, given Rasmus Højlund that cross to carry. Now, one thing that we've always said, particularly on this show about Rasmus Højlund, is that he's a proper striker in a positive way, in the sense that he gives everything for the team, a la Mark Hughes. But his finishing, his honesty of effort has never been in doubt. But the weight of carrying that particular cross, um, his um, the sheer stress and anxiety of having to do that, you can see, is absolutely disintegrating his confidence, as it would anybody of that age, being, you know, lambasted with the amount of pressure and negative press that he's been getting. Um, so for Harry Amas, I have to say, looks as if he could become, please God, the new Luke Shaw without his injuries. That's really positive. You'd have to say that Lenny Yoro has been a very, very solid signing that's shown some incredible seedlings of potential to be, the next Rio Ferdinand. He's that agile centre back. He's good coming forward with the ball. Um, there's some really positive shoots there. Looking across the back four, you'd say that there are. It's been a very peculiar year in that it's taken so many reshuffles. With Dallo being out now as well, it's a peculiar time. But you'd have to say that, providing we don't have any more injuries on leading up now to Thursday night, you'd have to say that if United field Casemiro, Fernandez, Højlund, Garnacho, maybe Kobe Mainu, you'd have to say that, and have a resurgent, and it has to be said, Harry Maguire. We were very, very, looking back even 2 years ago, myself and a man on this show were very, very critical of Harry Maguire. But it has to be said, with time and incredible integrity from that person to turn things around, you would have to say that after Bruno, he'd have a very strong case for Player of the Season, just by sheer virtue of his resiliency. His resiliency, let alone his Braziliancy. He's been a very important highlight in what has been a disastrous season in terms of the resolve. You could even argue he's played himself back into contention for next season to be starting, ahead of Martinez. I don't know what you might think about that. Let us know in the comments. It's a very, very peculiar time. Athletic Club looked, you'd have to say, for the first 15 or 20 minutes in the first leg in Bilbao, as if they were a team that would cause us some problems. They held the ball really well. They looked fast on the ball, much faster than anything we've played in the Europa League thus far. So you'd have to say that we kind of shocked them into submission. Sorry, guys, having a little bit of a technical issue here. Just switching to a different camera. Be back with you there now shortly. Okay, we're back. Harry Maguire, yeah. I mean, look, let's be honest about Harry for a second. He's been incredibly useful, and an old head on you know an old experienced head on a very um, insecure collective pair of shoulders for Manchester United. He's played um, very, very well at a time when we were very short of leaders. But credit where credit's due in terms of Bruno Fernandes over the last 6 months. Let's not lose sight of the fact that um, we did call for Bruno's unofficial resignation, and I think some people wouldn't have minded had he have headed off to Saudi when that option was available more recently. A lot of people were calling his age into question, and it must be said that I think Bruno's legs are really good. He's a very dedicated professional. Footballers of that age, they play for a lot longer now. Well, even the fact that we're even talking about players coming in, or players in the past have been coming in that are well into their 30s to play for 2, 3 years. So you'd have to say that Bruno has, if he wants it, another 4 or 5 years at the very top level, maybe even longer when you look at someone like Luka Modric. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Um, just popping on, really, just have a little bit of a chat and go. That and mention that we're this is the closest we've been to a decent competition, really, since I suppose that the FA Cup being what it is, a proper European competition, something to celebrate in a long time. And do I think that we'll get past the likes of Spurs if we get them in the final? Well, yes, because with all due respect to some of my Spurs mates, one or two of them, you'd have to say that playing United in the league is a very different prospect to playing United on a final, and you'd have to say that I think United would have enough. There's a spark there. There's a joie de vivre when we play in Europe in particular, and if we bring that tifo out again, you never know what might happen. So yeah, I think we turned them over. I think we'd be a little bit too strong for Spurs, particularly because they might have a few injuries as well, with Solanke and Madison potentially out also. But Spurs, of course, conceding a goal in their last match to Bodo Glimt. Ironically, I'd love to see Bodo Glimt in the final in some kind of weird Scandinavian way, as half of the supporters of Norway and Scandinavia in general support Man United anyway, so it might be a full house of Man United fans. Yeah, I'm gonna hazard a guess and say that United will concede, of course. So I'll say that United will probably they will score. So we might lose 2-1 and still go through, or it'll be a 2-all. I'm hoping for a 2-1 for United. I'm going to go with that on Thursday night. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube there if you haven't already. And if you're feeling extra generous and you want to contribute to the work that we do, take a quick snap of the QR code on the bottom there. I'll point to it there, and join us on Buy Me a Coffee. There's lots of little extras for supporting the show, and if we see you out and about, we'll get you coffee or a cup of tea or a pint or whatever we can to repay your interest and support in the show. There's lots of little things you can do to support what we do at the Cult of Cantona. You can subscribe. You can join our Facebook group, the Cult of Cantona, where we have little chats and banter. And we also have a WhatsApp group as well, which I'll put in the link below of the video afterwards. And you can join in the daily chat there with myself, Iman, Brian, Deck, and all the lads, Usheen, and all the lads, and Paul occasionally as well, the other Paul, and you can see what we discuss about United on a daily basis, and particularly during the matches. So yeah, get involved, support the show, and lastly, before we sign off, just wanted to say, very, very tentatively, that if United get through, we're considering putting on our very first live ticketed watch along in the Grand Social in Dublin on the 21st. That's Wednesday the 21st, and we'll have some special guests coming along. We'll also be supporting a charity on the night also, and there'll be some giveaways and bits and pieces as well. So keep an eye on that. Obviously, if things don't go our way on Thursday night, there's a distinct chance that we won't be doing that, but keep an eye on that just in case. Yeah. So yeah, keep an eye out on our website and our social media channels. That's at the Cult of Cantona. And again, if you want to support the show, buymeacoffee.com/cult of Cantona. I've been PBL, and you've been watching in your droves. And we'll catch you next time. Glory, glory, Man United. Come on Thursday night.